Okay, let's dive into this. Our planet produces an insane amount of food. But here's the thing. We're also facing this huge, massive contradiction, a global paradox that we are going to unpack right now.
So get this. The first piece of this puzzle is just staggering. Think about all the food you buy in a week. Now imagine just throwing a third of it straight into the trash. That's basically what's happening on a global scale. Roughly one-third of all the food produced for us, for human consumption, is lost or wasted every single year.
And then you have the flip side of that coin, and it's absolutely heartbreaking. While all that food is being thrown out, nearly 800 million people are going hungry. I mean, that's more than double the entire population of the United States. They just don't have enough food to lead a healthy life.
Right? It's the big question here. How on earth can both of these things be true at the exact same time? How can we have so much excess and so much desperate need side by side? All right, so to really get to the bottom of this, we've got to break it down. First, we'll get on the same page by defining food security. Then we'll dig into the root causes of hunger, look at the very real human consequences, and finally, we'll connect it all back to that huge problem of waste. Okay, so first up, defining food security. Yeah, before we can really tackle this, we all need to be on the same page about what we're even talking about. Let's lay some groundwork. So, what is food security? Well, it's not just about having food, period. It's actually got three key parts. You need enough of it, so it has to be sufficient. It has to be safe to eat. And this is a big one, it's got to be nutritious. All three have to be there. And that brings us to the word undernourished. Now, pay attention to the word or here, because it's super important. So, yeah, you can be undernourished in the way we usually think, not getting enough calories. But you can also be undernourished if you're getting plenty of calories, but none of the good stuff, the vitamins and minerals your body needs. Hang on to that thought. We're going to come back to it. Okay, last definition, I promise. GDP per capita. It's really just a fancy way of saying, on average, how wealthy a country's people are. And why are we talking about this? Well, because a country's wealth, it has a huge impact on whether people can actually get their hands on the food that's out there. All right, section 2. Let's get into the root causes of hunger. So now that we know what we're talking about, let's ask the real question. What is actually stopping 800 million people from being food secure? Let's unpack the why. But before we just list a bunch of causes, let's look at a map, so to speak. Where is this problem the most concentrated? Because figuring out where this is happening gives us some major clues about why it's happening. Wow, yeah, this table really lays it all out, doesn't it? Just look at the difference in daily calories. In a place like the UK, you're looking at well over 3,000 calories available per person. But then you look at Somalia, and it's way closer to 2,000. That huge gap really shows that sub-Saharan Africa is facing the toughest battle when it comes to just the basic food supply. So why? Why is there such a huge difference? Well, it usually boils down to four big things that are all tangled together. First up, poverty. This is the big one. Food could be right there in a market, but if you can't afford it, it might as well be on the moon. Next, you've got conflict. Wars destroy farms and supply lines and force people from their homes. Then there are natural disasters, like droughts and floods, which are only getting worse. And finally, soil quality. Poor farming practices can just ruin the land over time. And the thing is, these problems don't just happen one at a time. They all feed off each other, creating this perfect storm. Okay, on to part 3, the human consequences. Because this isn't just about numbers on a chart, right? This has a real, tangible impact on people's lives. Okay, remember what I said about being undernourished? Let's circle back to that with a really common misconception. So, here's the question. Can a person actually be overweight and still be undernourished? The answer is a big, resounding yes. Absolutely. And understanding this is key to understanding modern malnutrition. And here's how that works. Remember our definition? Undernourishment isn't just about not enough calories, it can also be about not enough nutrients. So you could be eating tons of food that's high in calories, think cheap processed stuff, that makes you gain weight. But if that food has zero nutritional value, your body is literally starving for the vitamins and minerals it needs to actually work right. And the fallout from that is it's really serious. Your immune system gets weaker, you can end up with anemia or just constant fatigue. It can even cause things like rickets in kids, where their bones become soft because they're not getting enough vitamin D. I mean, this stuff can cause damage that lasts a lifetime. And in the absolute worst case scenario, this complete breakdown of food security leads to what we call famine. This is when food becomes so scarce across a whole region that people start dying in mass. It's often that perfect storm we talked about, drought plus conflict, and it's just the ultimate tragic consequence. All right, last section. Let's talk about waste. And this is where we bring it all the way back to the beginning. Let's connect the dots between the hunger we just discussed and that shocking statistic from the start, that 1/3 of all food gets thrown away. Because it turns out the problem with all that waste isn't just that it's food that could have gone to hungry people. No, in wealthier countries where people generally have enough to eat, all that wasted food creates another massive problem: methane. And the way it happens is pretty straightforward, but the effects are huge. We buy too much food, we throw it out, it ends up in a giant landfill. As all that organic stuff breaks down, it releases methane. And methane is a super potent greenhouse gas. It traps heat, warms up the planet, and you know what that leads to? More of those droughts and floods that cause hunger in the first place. It's a truly vicious cycle. So just let this sink in for a second. The amount of food we waste globally every single year is enough to feed every single hungry person on this planet twice. The disconnect is it's mind-boggling. And that really leaves us with one final, very important question to think about. If we already produce enough food to feed everyone on Earth, and then some, is hunger really a production problem, or is it actually a problem of distribution? A problem of poverty, of conflict, of getting the food from where it is to where it's desperately needed. Maybe the solution isn't about growing more, but about fixing our systems.